So, welcome everyone. I hope we got a few minutes to ingather ourselves. Okay, so I think, stopped here last time. This was sensing and repelling attacks of illness. The major topic is sensing and repelling attacks of illness. And I think we stopped here. Yes. So we have to start from page number 54 on this PDF, starting from this new part where it's by the mother. Yeah, if anyone would like to read it, please go ahead. It's a longer one. We'll just stop somewhere in the middle. I don't know where, but we'll see. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone would like to read?
I could read.
Okay.
Illnesses enter through the subtle body, don't they? How can they be stopped? If one is very sensitive, one must be very sensitive. The moment they touch the subtle body and try to pass through, one feels it. It is not like something touching the body. It is a sort of impression. If you're able to perceive it at that moment, you have still the power to say no, and it goes away. But for this, one must be extremely sensitive. However, that develops. All these things can be developed methodically by the will. You can become quite conscious of this envelope. And if you develop it enough, you don't even need to look and see. You feel that something has touched you.
Yeah, I think we can take a pause here. Thank you. So I think one thing which intrigues me here is many a times, we find ourselves saying, "Oh, I am very sensitive to people. I'm very sensitive. This happened in the outward situations, and that happened." And we are actually at times blaming ourselves for that oversensitivity, especially around people of all kinds of different kinds of people. So I think this is where that sensitivity has to get channelized. It's towards the wrong direction. So the same sensitivity which we have towards everything that hurts us, and oh, I'm so sensitive, we've become so fragile, and everything, touches, whatever happens in the outer situation, it keeps touching us. So mother says that this has to be cultivated, this sensitivity, and this energy is same, it just has to be channelized properly. So if this becomes more important for me, this can be cultivated, and the same sensitivity I can, if I turn it inwards, in gathered, if that energy remains in gathered, then I can actually uh, become such a sensitive guard for my nervous envelope and for the body. But usually, since we are so scattered and all that energy is scattered in different threads in all the directions possible, it's not in gathered, and there it has sensitivity. But there, that sensitivity of it is of hardly any use, because what do I do? You can't change people, you can't change situations, but you can work on yourself. Here it brings power. If we bring that energy into an ingathered state and cultivate this sensitivity, and I'm sure all of us have in various moments of our life, have these experiences where something was coming, and when it just touched, we experienced a certain kind of, a sickness, or even before that, when it was touching our being, that something is uneasy, something is not right. We don't know what is not right, but something is not right. All of us at various moments in time will have certain experiences, but it's just that they come as glimpses, and we don't spend effort and energy to cultivate it. All the energy and effort is just outwardly focused, and hardly it brings us any benefit. So if that very sensitivity can come inside, and we can maybe cultivate that sensitivity, which is of benefit now for me. So that really attracted me, and that's why I asked you to just maybe take a pause here. So yes, and anyone wants to share, add anything here? Another aspect that comes here is vigilance, and we have talked about this at various points in our sessions, that we are hardly on guard, we are always off guard, scattered and lost, as if the guard is just drunk and lost somewhere else. So the crops are eaten again and again from the farm, the peace is disturbed. So vigilance also comes here into picture, and for vigilance we have to remain ingathered. One has to be sincere, one has to remain ingathered. So one has to sit around the fence if one wants to protect the crop at all. But if I may be sitting at the fence, but I'm drunk on all the things that come from the senses, all the time immersed in those thoughts, feelings, what happened, what did not happen, commentary, then that vigilance is not there, that ingatheredness is not there. And things may come, and in retrospect, we may realize that, oh, I was off guard, which again is a baby step forward if we realize it in retrospect. But we have that capacity that we can cultivate this vigilance if now this has become important for me. If not, if I don't bother, then of course, why should I care? But it's a beautiful capacity to be cultivated, to be ingathered, sitting on the fence, and yeah, taking care of one's being. And to that extent, that mother says that if we are so vigilant and we see it entering, and nothing in my being wants it, then it has the capacity to go away. But usually it happens that, when something is coming, we are usually so exhausted and drained most of the times that we think that, okay, acha hai bimari aayi hai, that I'll be able to rest. Many a times we feel like that good that I have fever now today, now 3 days I'll be able to rest, because usually we are not able to, maintain a balance in the being. So something in us invites that disease and sickness, and also wants attention. If we are people living around people, then it serves as a very good thing of attention, because usually we have this, one can say we have this tendency, as human beings, that if somebody is not well, we take over care of them. And if somebody is well, then we don't, hardly notice. So many a times, the vital being, it wants the illness so that I may be noticed, so that I may be taken care of. So that's what mother says, that nothing in the being, we have to be so self-reliant, or the reliance on the divine has to be so great that nothing in the being wants to be ill. Nothing. I don't want any attention. I don't want any, this kind of a rest. And there is something higher aim in life that we have, which keeps us going, which gives us energy. So then nothing in the being, even when I am 90 and touching 100, why would one want to fall ill if that vigor is there inside? But because we remain trapped in our little four-walled lives and four people lives, it drains our vigor. It as if it exhausts us, it sucks away energy from us. So the more we live with a sense of interconnectedness and like living world as a family, somehow it empowers and also doesn't drain energy. It's very exhausting to live for this little me and four of us and five of us, and that's it. My life. It's exhausting. It drains. Yeah. Yeah. So anything here before we read the next one?
Yeah, I think when you were sharing throughout, that mother's quote that nothing is wrong in the world, right? Like things are just not at the right place. That just kept coming to me, that what you spoke about sensitivity, right? Anything. Like if I want to be jealous, let me be jealous of the Buddha, for example, right? Like let me direct it towards something which can actually get me something. Like we keep getting satisfied with smaller things, right? Like we are thrown pennies and we're like, wow, penny, one penny, oh my god, another penny. So why would we get something more if we are so happy with the small things which we have experienced so many times under different covers? So the sensitivity example, especially the one that you had given, that if I have to be, it feels that this is why that would have been there, right? But I have been using it for the wrong things. So yeah, that was very beautiful. That let me develop it towards, let me face, turn the face of these things that I'm sitting on every day, the things that I'm using, very lot of justification, right? That see, I'm so sensitive, or I feel the pain because I'm so sensitive. So let me use it to a place where it will actually help me to be more, right? Like, and utilize that more. So yeah, just that. Thank you.
Yeah, I also this point about sensitivity. I used to also think my being really sensitive to what someone says or picking up on people's feelings, like that was something somehow not, if not necessarily positive, but something special. And so with a bit of a positive connotation. And then this last trip to Pondicherry, somebody there that I respect, um, I was explaining to her about this, just feeling hurt sometimes or feeling somebody's ill will, and I, just picking up on it. And as I heard it, she named it as, oh, your nerves are quite weak. And I hadn't thought of it like that. And I know that Mother has named in a number of passages like the need for the nerves to be very strong. And so I too have been sitting with this thing of what is it then that becomes so sensitive in the passage we just read, that Mother is referring to, that what aspect it's not the nerves, then it's some other aspect in the cells or in the body or in the being that becomes sensitive and so can feel the touch of an illness, and that is the part to be developed, um, and I'm in that exploration. Is it an aspect of the cells that can't get that requires attention to develop the consciousness? Is it aura? Is it a combo? Yeah, it's quite fascinating, but that it's separate from the sensitivity or that aspect that feels sensitive to people's, such as people's anger or ill will or at the emotional level. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I think I feel that we have to be little wary of this mind creeping in here, because now see the example that you gave, it's beautiful. That maybe you're weak on nerves, and we all are, and that's why we have a weak nervous envelope, and that is what we have to strengthen. Now, I don't know what is the root of this. Of course, I don't know whether it is coming from cells, whether it is coming from nerves. Are they connected? Are they not connected? I think this is what comes later. This will be revealed to me later. But right now, I have a choice. And this is what I have to cultivate, and I must not delay it, because the mind brings in all these doubts and confusions and wants to know right now, okay, what is it, you know. And in that I may actually postpone the cultivation of this, what we were sharing, that turning that sensitivity which you have towards outer things, turning that within, remaining in gathered, and to be sitting on the fence as if on of the being. And the moment something enters with that sensitivity only, you pick it up, that oh, this was entering, and you reject it, you know. So that cultivation in parallel can happen. In the meantime, things will be revealed to me, what is the root, you know, where is this coming from, what is the thing that is sensitive, and what is the thing that is really I have to strengthen. So I think we can do it parallelly. I don't have to wait that what is the part of the being which is leading to this sensitivity. So I don't have to wait for that revelation. I can right now begin the practice. You know? So that is very empowering. And it leads to, an earlier passages we had read, it leads to strengthening of the nervous envelope. So how beautifully it relates with the example that you shared. So when I am focused outwards to all the things and people and situation and sensing it, I'm sensing it, you know, all the time, whether it is ill will, bad will, good will, whatever, you know, it weakens my nervous envelope, because it's like scattered, like, you know, threads thrown around. And when that very same sensitivity is sitting on the fence, it's not scattered, you know, it's sitting on the fence, it's just protecting, taking care of this being that we are, then that very same sensitivity can actually be beneficial and empower rather than draining. So amazing, really. What is the capacity if we really like make a conviction that okay, let me cultivate it, let me do this for myself. And this is the need for the ego individuality we see, you know. Otherwise, how, if I don't call this body myself, then who would sit on the fence? I am sitting on the fence because I know this is my body, my being, I have to protect it. Why I have to protect it? Because I want to be, you know, serving the divine. So I'll protect myself. So this is the need, the temporary need of ego individuality. To have boundaries, to have borders, so that we can nurture this being who can serve the right. So yeah, that was very, I just expanded and hiked on your example, but it was very beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely. I don't think that it's something that needs to be weighted, you know, for some kind of clarity or answer. Because I think it's a lifelong path for yoga. And this, you said about it, you know, it can be done simultaneously. And I think that is what I'm sensing in my body, that it's simultaneously something like sitting on the fence, which is like on the outside edges, if you'd like, of this body, whether it's the aura or whatever it is, the energetic, and like having this force field to protect myself. And at the same time, there's something very, very deep behind. And often for me on this moment, it feels like it's behind the heart center. So it's like from a really deep place, like at, you know, way down a very long tunnel. Simultaneously from that place, that is also the place that could develop the sensitivity to, in this example, the mother's talking about, of an illness coming in. You know, so it's really interesting. It's like the very outside of the being, or what I sense as the outside of my being, and the very, very deepest inner part, all working simultaneously. Yes.
True, very true. You know, and I think the way we look at these things is totally in alignment with how we are conditioned to live. See, we are living mostly through the senses, and that has a purpose. So there is a like a demarcation. So if I say there is this cell, then there is this which is nerve, right? So if I look at through senses, it seems very, very clear that this is separate and this is separate. You know, there is no interconnection. But if we actually look from the spiritual perspective, and even going through quantum physics, we will see that this separation is not there. So where are the nerves ending and where is the cell starting? And then the question itself dissolves, that okay, wherever, because so limited this way that we look at things. And that is why, all the life we live as, okay, me as a separate self, you as a separate person, and like I can do anything to the other person and nothing will happen to me. And it's not that way. So yeah, it's very intriguing what you were sharing, that yeah, where is it coming from? Who can tell? Yeah, the mind cannot decipher, the limited mind. Yes.
In the book,
Mhm.
the Death, Dying and Beyond by Dr. Alok Pandey, somebody had, I don't know, he was reflecting or somebody had asked that is the process of dying painful? So he said that if you are attached to everything, right? Like if you are just this body and you're totally attached, and when you are detaching, right, it's really painful. Like it is painful. And yet there's a but, right? But if you have learned to detach, if you know you are more, it's not painful. So this, same body, same senses, same you and I, and yet for one, because he's so used to holding, it's painful. And if so, again, there's no logic, right? Like logically, it should be a very clear cut process. Okay, human beings, painful, not painful, right? So there's nothing that we keep putting logic, right? We keep putting, okay, this works this way, 2 plus 2 is 4. And it's not. It's not. Like, in different dimensions, it could be 2 plus 2 is 0, for example, right? 2 negates 2 and gone. So this transcending the logic, the mind, is again and again, again and again so evident. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
On this, just something that I read today, I thought it was in alignment with what you just shared. So the question is, how can one silence the mind, remain quiet, and at the same time have an aspiration, an intensity, or a widening? Because as soon as one aspires, it is the mind that aspires, isn't it? So that's the question. And Mother says, no, aspiration as well as widening and intensity come from the heart, the emotional center, the door leading to the psychic. And then she talks about the limitation of the mind, which you were sharing. The mind, by its nature, is curious and interested. It sees, it observes, it tries to understand and explain. And with all this activity, it disturbs the experience and diminishes its intensity and force. So, all the time we are engaged in this. And then she says, on the other hand, the more calm and silent the mind is, the more can aspiration rise up from the depths of the heart in the fullness of its ardor. So no need of explaining, no need of, the curiosity, at least in this regard, that we are discussing. Because things, as you said, are beyond logic. Yeah. And it disturbs. Mother says that if that curiosity remains, in the parallel, then it is disturbing that aspiration. It's not letting it rise up intensely. Okay, so we can go forward. If not anything here, let's see, maybe taking, I don't know how much. Yeah, if anyone wants to read, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can do. one can very easily feel a kind of slight uneasiness. It is not something which is imposed with a great force. A slight uneasiness approaching you from somewhere, in front, behind, above, below. If at that moment you are alert enough, you say no, as though you were cutting off the contact with great force, and it is finished. If you are not conscious at that moment, the next minute or a few minutes later, you get a queer, sick feeling inside, a chill in the back, a light discomfort, the beginning of some disharmony. You feel a disharmony somewhere, as though the general harmony had been disturbed. Then you must concentrate all the more, and with a great strength of will, keep the faith that nothing can do you harm, nothing can touch you. This is enough. You can throw off the illness at that moment, but you must do this immediately. You understand? You must not wait 5 minutes. It must be done at once. If you wait too long and begin to feel a real uneasiness somewhere, if something begins to get really disturbed, then it is good to sit down, concentrate, and call the force. Concentrate, concentrate it on the place which is getting disturbed, that is to say, which is beginning to become ill. But if you don't do anything at all, an illness really gets lodged somewhere. And all this because you were not alert enough. And sometimes one has to follow the entire curve to find the favorable moment again and get rid of the thing. Should I stop here? Prabha?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful, really. So crisp, so clear. Really. So I think this has to be, I don't know, somehow this comes to me again and again, that why at times we are not able to say no. And then there are times when we are able to say no. That thing, that keeping, giving ourselves a higher purpose. And you will have seen, usually it happens that, just an example, again, just a little window to look at this, that if imagine that I'm working for a cause which is greater than me, it is not for this little me that I am doing it, right? And every morning I have to get up in the morning to serve that cause, and I'm really passionate about that cause. I want to, give myself there. So whether there would be some days where I'm not really totally feeling okay, but I would push myself, and I would go to work because I know this is this, like, so there are things which are higher than me, and if there is one little headache and something, this is bothering, maybe, it is nothing in front of what has to be done. So it pushes us, a higher aim pushes us forward, because if it is just me and my little world, then somehow I feel that that push is not there. So even as mother says, that if one is able to recognize the illness when it is touching, and one can with great force say no, and it's cut, that contact is cut. And most of the times I'm not able to say that because I'm so lost, and also wanting attention, and wanting to be taken care of. So that connect fully is not there with the higher, and that's why that force also is not there, because that force, I believe, is a part of this greater strength that comes when I'm connected to something greater than me. So I feel that one has to just experiment with this, that if there is something higher in front of us for which I have to rise up every morning and it feels delightful, that where you can put yourself, then little things can be just shed off the shoulders, and one does not want to be ill. So then with great force one can disconnect that, no, nothing in my being wants that disease or sickness, or whatever. And again, at times one may still fall sick, but the recovery may be easier. The recovery may be because of that will within not to be ill. There is no insecurity, there is no wanting attention and craving approval from people and care from people. So then it may take a little less time, and one can go through that thing easily. Also by calling the force, calling peace in the body, for those of us who are like, in tune with it. So yeah, we can go through that. Yeah, anything here? Anyone?
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know if you can hear me okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Now, I was thinking that, for example, I can feel sometimes or many times that I have an underlying fear of illness and stuff. And this fear seems to be like, it seems that I don't want to be ill consciously. It means that, but I feel that in some way subconsciously to fear must have something to do with some indirect or subconscious attachment or wanting, like maybe consciously to be afraid of illness wouldn't be to desire, but some paradoxically it seems that has something to do with the same.
What was the last thing you said? Paradoxically, something to do with?
Like this, I can sense that I consciously don't want to be ill, never, but also I feel that I have some fear about illness
Okay.
times.
Yes.
This is also a problem.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it has many layers to it. I think I resonate with what you shared. It has many layers to it, and there is a deeper kind of an unconscious, subconscious fear, which is actually lodged in the cells, the physical cells, and of which Mother talks about, at so many places, where she talks about the transformation of cells, and uh, talking about like working on cells, physical cells. Maybe if you read through those accounts, so I think that is the deeper aspect of it, that consciously, and I can't see anything which wants to get ill, but because the cells have been used to this habit of dying, it's like for so many years, eons and lifetimes, the cells have been dying. So it is a bad habit that they have developed, and that fear is there that, oh, I will die. And Mother talks about it. Mother says that death is a bad habit, as if, dying is a bad habit. So even she talks about that, injecting that faith and certitude in the cells, the physical consciousness, which now is lodged with that fear and habit of dying. So a part may be coming from there, what you were sharing, that deeper unconscious, even subconscious part, which consciously I don't want to be ill, but unconsciously the cells know that, oh, I have to die, something like that. It is lodged in the cellular consciousness. So yes, and slowly I think the deeper we go into the being, we get to know what work now is required. So one can go deeper and deeper, and then if we touch that physical consciousness, then we can begin the work automatically. The Mother guides, and the work can begin at the deeper level. So just keeping the mother together on this journey, because she is the one who is guiding, where is the work needed. So all the time, even when we are feeling that unconscious, subconscious fear in the cells, in the physical consciousness, to just keep the mother along, so that one is guided, what is the next step in the process to transform, transmute. Yeah. Again, a little example again which comes to me here is that many a times one may meet people who may be not totally well. You may interact with people who are not completely well, maybe some cold, cough, fever, whatever. And this little thought comes to us, not even conscious thought, just like a ripple of thought in the background. It comes to us that you may too get the infection. You may get unwell too, being in touch with that person. And if in that very moment something in the being notices that ripple, that oh, this fear was there, and calls the mother at that very instant, what mother says here in this paragraph here. So here mother says that if you already kind of get a sick feeling inside, chill in the back, little discomfort, beginning of some disharmony, you feel a disharmony somewhere, as though the general harmony had been disturbed. So something, some ripple, some unease, some movement you feel. Then mother says at the very instant, then you must concentrate all the more and with a great strength of will to keep the faith that nothing can do you harm, nothing can touch you. This is enough. You can throw off the illness at that moment. And then mother says, but you must do this immediately. You understand? You must not wait 5 minutes. It must be done at once. So I think this is what I personally feel that all of us may have experiences with, that immediately you feel like a quiver somewhere inside, that something is like fearful or anxious, and that may attract the illness. And if you become aware of that movement within, and if that very moment you call the mother, that mother, you take care, of course, nothing in me wants to be sick, so if you want, I'll go through the illness, but this is where I am, whatever, it could be any communication, and keep the faith, keep the force there. Then yeah, I think it's good to experiment with these things, otherwise these are just theoretical, philosophical things. So in our day-to-day lives, if we have such interactions and if we experiment, then it gives us a motivation to keep at it. So very important to keep experimenting. Otherwise, these are just words, and right, they may be full of illumination and consciousness, but not for me, because I have not practiced, I have not experimented. Yeah.
This last point, recently I've been noticing that in the past I used to consider doing this, like calling mother, or how quickly can I get conscious that I'm falling sick, for like an illness of the cells of the body, such as flu or something bigger, say. Now I try and do it like the minute I notice there's like some shift into anxiety or fear or depression or any of these kind of mental health states, and that I used to somehow think that weren't part of an illness, even though I knew it by definition. Yes, mental health is just as much health as something that's biological. Yet I hadn't applied it in the same way, and so that is more of my, in this particular body, it's more of the issue that's at hand anyway, where I have an opportunity to practice all the time, you know, because like it can creep in at the drop of a hat. You know, I can get anxious or fearful or get nervous about something turning out the way I want or whatever it is, you know, and that feeling is so habituated. I notice that so quickly. And so in this moment, I'm realizing that as I now get quicker and quicker at calling her and coming back to some kind of centeredness in myself, then at the same time, it could be that it's fine tuning my ability to also get sensitive if it were to be a cold or something else that's, you know, more, whatever you want to call it, body sickness. So yeah, just wanted to share.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, anything more here? Okay, so we can go forward. Not anything. If anyone would like to read, we can read all this up at once, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have said somewhere that in the physical domain, all is a question of method. Method is necessary for realizing everything. And if the illness has succeeded in touching the physical, well, you must follow the procedure needed to get rid of it. This is what medical science calls the course of the illness. One can hasten the course with the help of spiritual forces, but all the same the procedure must be followed. There are some 4 different stages. The very first is instantaneous. The second can be done in a few minutes. The third may take several hours, and the fourth several days. And then, once the thing is lodged there, all will depend not only on the receptivity of the body, but still more on the willingness of the part which is the cause of the disorder. You see, when something comes from outside, it is in affinity with something inside. If it managed to pass through, to enter without once being aware of it, it means there is an affinity somewhere, and it is this part of the being which has responded that must be convinced.
Yeah, thank you. So beautiful. So again, as it is said mostly for the physical domain, but it can be applied at all the levels, mental, emotional, especially the part where Mother shares that if something has come from outside, some affinity was there inside. So we have to, like, as if with a forceps, we have to get to know that part which calls the problem inside. Not only for physical, but as Swapna was sharing, for mental and emotional aspects also. Yeah, so
I
anything
don't
here?
know,
Yeah.
reading this, I like, this seems to be talking more about maybe virus and bacteria and illnesses that come with this, because I was thinking about other kind of illnesses which are not maybe related to a virus, and then maybe that is different, like, I don't know.
Yeah, true, true. I think this can't be just extended out of context. So very true. Yes. Yeah. And here, Mother talks about, and if the illness has succeeded in touching the physical. So I just a little window to see this, what is physical. Then mother says that then what one must follow the procedure needed to get rid of it. This is what medical science calls the course of illness. So again, when, for example, what is the physical? So taking an example which is very concretely physical, one can say, for example, a tumor. It's very physical. You can see it in the physical. But its starting was, we don't know where it really started. And it could have been stopped or reversed at various points when it started, like the whole course it took. And then, since it was not stopped at any of those levels, it lodged itself and it became the physical. Now it has touched the physical. Now it's again, although I feel that it's a rarity, but there are cases, I'm not in touch with direct cases, but there are cases, stories where even at the physical level, the tumors receded without any surgery. So things are there, stories are there, very concrete examples are there, people are alive who have these stories. But mother says then you must go through whatever is required. For example, surgery may be required. So I may begin, I remember when, I had the tumor and I wanted to actually, I was reading all these stories and I wanted to uh, be inspired by these stories. And I thought that maybe if I work on myself, then they recede. So that inspiration came in. And I took 4 or 5 months before the surgery was done. And of course, they did not recede. But one thing had happened, which was they reduced in their aggressiveness. Every tumor has a type. So the type now was less aggressive. Now, I don't know, of course, what led to what, but ultimately I had strength enough in my being that I had to, okay, now surgery is required, let's go through surgery. So one realizes the importance of taking care of that physical now that it has reached that stage. For example, migraine or these headaches that may come from to time, to us. At times they are in such kind of an intensity that I'm still capable of calling peace and stillness, and they are, like, okay, they reduce. At times we are in that capacity. At times the intensity is so overwhelming that you can't even sit and pray and call the force. That's not possible. So you take a pill, like the physical has to be attended. So that's what comes to me here when mother says that if it has reached and touched the physical, now it must take its own course. And even when it's taking the course, even there at various levels, you have moments where it can either shorten the course, reduce, make a U-turn. At various moments, we have this free will. So just wanted to add on from the experience here about the physical.
Yes, so also I think maybe allopathic medicine it's used to work on this level of physical, but we may take other examples of like homeopathy, or maybe we have a disease and we can apply some treatment that it's not necessarily focused on physical, allopathic treatment. It may be many things.
Yeah. And at times, as everything has a right place, all these things have a proper place. So just breaking our limiting beliefs that if one has gone forward, then just taking the help of anything which helps, which one resonates with intuitively. At times we really block ourselves that, oh, I must just take naturopathy, and in that we suffer a lot. We continue, and all the energy, even whatever little we have remaining, that also gets drained. So I think we don't need to do this torture on ourselves. Each thing has its proper place, and one can use that to spring oneself up again. Yeah, anyone wants to add on in this one? Let me share. This last part is about, again that vigilance, that if I'm absent from the palace within, the body is called the palace. And if I'm absent, then who would know about the being? The camera is absent. So any thief can come, dacoits can come, and things can happen all the time. But I don't know why it is happening. And usually with each one of us, it starts like that I don't know how it came. But slowly, then, if we are interested, we get to know. And at times, we get also this mastery that, as Mother shares, you can say no, nothing in the being wants it. So it's like a process that one has to follow, arising from that ignorant, unconscious state and slowly developing that mastery. And again, having said that, it's not that we must not never think that this mastery is not for us mortal being, but only for the yogis. It is said here, it is presented in the words of Mother, because it is possible for us. So slowly, as we grow in awareness, we can grow in our consciousness to that aspect, to that what do you- the word, so that ability that we are able to ward off at least some little things that come to us, and we say, okay, this certainly I don't want, so to call the Mother, and it's sorted. But again, there would be greater things, more difficulties, and the more challenges are thrown at us, it means that we are more capable. So, as Mother says, that the divine doesn't underestimate our strength. He knows that if the person is capable, more things are thrown, that okay, learn, you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing, that's coming out, several things actually, but it's like, how with everything we reach this kind of this destination that we have to stand against ourselves to transcend something. Like if say somebody is ill in my house, like it's like there is this thing that okay, now we'll all have viral. It's like you don't say it, but there's something that says I know up to okay, it might take it might take less time for me or something, but it's a given. It's a given. Like you have a headache, and you know that if you've had that headache maybe 60 times before and it has not gone away without a pill, next time you feel that headache coming, I know, hoga hi nahi, you know, it would not be cured without it. So again, this is again knocking, right? Hammering at that belief that let go of your I knows, right? Let go. And this was so beautiful, the one we read before this, where it said that nothing can harm you, right? That's you. What is this you? What is this me that I am associating with, right? So the whole, like, it's not a band-aid solution, right? The whole, what I consider myself to be also needs to be changed, because there are certain things in which I have to get surgeries, right? Like, of course, depending on what the situation is. And while there are other things when one just has to get used to now that this is it, live with it. So again, no formula, right? Like I've had some issues, like, during Corona, major skin issues, gone to, I don't know how many doctors, spent so much. And finally, what came in handy was neem, like boil the leaves of neem tree and just, put your hands in it. And that worked. So, like no formula, like no homeopathy, no allopathic, no naturopathy, and the next time it again happened, it didn't work. When I knew that now I know, okay, that person had told me neem, and again I was like, what do I do? Neem is not working. And then I don't know, Vaseline helped. Like all I'm saying is that the one in which the one in me which says, I know, needs to be just said that good that you know, but I know you don't know. So bow down your head and see what you can do. And that's when these pointers, this light comes in handy. It's an experiment, right? Like everything, like we say, okay, when I think of a scientist, I just see, right, a scientist with in a lab in a white coat, maybe again more gray hair and glasses, right? But I have to change these definitions, right? Anytime I am experimenting, like you were talking about migraine. So I have, headaches at time, and earlier on I would just pop the pill. That's what the doctor had said, just pop the pill, pop the pill. So yesterday I was having this headache from 2 days. So first I worked on it and let it reach a place where it's not bothering me. And then when the whole intense state finished in which I used to really need the medicine, and now when the being said, okay, I don't need the medicine now, I can manage. Then I took the pill, okay, now we can, it's like, the elephant has gone, just the tail has left, but I was tired by then. And I said, okay, I'll pop half a pill and it was great. So again, next time I might again pop one at the beginning. That is like there's no formula, there's no rule, there's one can be kind to oneself and yet know that whatever I say I know is coming from my old patterns, old beliefs. I've seen, I've heard, but what have I experimented with without preconceived notions, without the I knows, then the experimentation begins, right? Like if it's unbiased, then the potential is there. Otherwise, so like you were saying, the mental actually inhibits, right? It harms. I say I have an affirmation that yes, I can do it, but the mind, the next second says, yeah, too tough. Yeah, come on, that's not logical, right? Like my logic, they stop me, they bind me, they limit me, and and then it's worse because I say I tried and it didn't work, not knowing that the whole experiment was biased and yeah, I guess I've conveyed, so I'll stop.
So I suggest that maybe the next we should take later. This much is enough for experimentation, even for a whole lifetime. And yeah, so let us. I think we must. Those of us who are really sincere about it, we must experiment. And as we all were sharing our own experiments, then it gives us conviction to go ahead. So, and even this bit that we have read, we can continue experimenting for a long time. So my suggestion is that we can stop here today, and if there are last comments, then we can take in the session. Yeah, anyone? If there is anything you want to add?
Yes. Ma'am, when you were sharing about this, the example of skin problem and the neem example, Taru ma'am. So you said that it's the I know element that kind of I don't know how to put it, but how if I were in no, if I am to face an issue and my mind tells me that you know how to deal with it, just apply this medicine or just drink this, have this drink, and that doesn't work out. Because in most cases, it never did. Then how, like you said, to bow down my head. Um, so if I'm in that situation right now, then how should I address this? Like, can you elaborate it if possible?
Yeah, Jagan, again, knowing that it's not a formula, but I can definitely share, what I went through. So I developed this skin condition during Corona, I think because of excessive use of sanitizers or washing my hands too many times. And thankfully, in the beginning only, so that I don't have to further use too much chemicals. So I tried different doctors and nothing worked. Like, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, it was really bad, like both my hands. And then somebody suggested boil neem and wash your hands. Okay. And then finally it started receding and it stopped. And after some time, like after, I don't know, a year, again it started. And then as soon as it started, I was so happy that now I know that, okay, the neem would work. Like I don't have to waste my time with other things. I was so, like, there was no gratitude, there was no bowing of the head. There was just this thing that, yes, I know how to cure this. And I started and it didn't work at all. I was so shocked. And I thought, now what, right? I've already experimented with all the doctors. I can go to other doctors, but that didn't resonate. And again, nothing was working. And suddenly, while I was thinking about this, Mars picture was in front of me, and I was like, "Ab kya karna hai?" Right? Like, what is left? And suddenly, next to Mars picture was a Vaseline ka box, and I just took that and I applied it. Suddenly, I felt like a lot of relief. So I was at my sister's place and I took that Vaseline box with me. I'm taking this. And in about 6, 7, 8 application I could see going down, and then it struck me that there is no I know. It's like logically it's the same thing that was repeating. So logically it's the same solution that had to work, that must work. It wasn't more, it was the same nature. And yet, when I asked myself that where did I go wrong? So the only thing that stood out was this I know, that you didn't know, you don't know. And yet there are things in which I have other issues in which it didn't get cured. But now I've, learned to live with it and it's fine. Small, again, skin things or whatever. So no formula, no nothing. And yeah, but it's just a lot of times when I have like tried my things and then finally I could have done it in the beginning only. I bowed down my head. Some thought in my head, some indication, something has been given to me. Okay, take that, do this. Just a thought. It feels like a thought. And when I've taken it, it works like magic. And in other cases, there has been nothing. So again, I'm not saying that, oh, I've reached that state that there's a direct connection. I, close my eyes and here comes the answer. So certain things I realize I have to experience. Maybe there's something stuck in me or there's more cleansing, more something needs to happen. And in others, it's like right there, okay, you have this problem here, take this and gone. So just being open, I think, is the thing that but if I'm okay taking the pills, I must continue. But if I feel I've had enough or I don't want to, that's just that option is there. And I've also, experimented how they say about placebos, right? Okay, I just imagine that, okay, I've opened my medicine drawers, I've opened the pill, I've taken the pill, I've had water, and it has worked if I've done it. And then, there are certain days when you don't want to do that. And certain days you want to. So just so many different ways in which you can approach it and just play with it, right? Like again, experiment. So don't know if that helps, but just in a very light mode, just okay, let me do this, let me try this. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely helps. It helps in understanding that uh, I don't need to stick to one solution. Instead I can call for the mother and close my. Like I'm just asking a question. Like, can I call for the mother? Close my eyes and then keep quiet, and then the answer will come. In my case, maybe at that point, all I had to do is just sleep to get to overcome it, or maybe you know um, one thing I'm sure is these directions don't come like someone's talking to me in the real world. They just come like those small nudges in the being that if you take this and that works like magic. So for that, should I offer to the mother and keep quiet as much as possible? Because the mind always talks and talks and talks.
Yeah, your mother, you choose when to call her, when not to call. I think again the direction will come from you. No formula, no wills, no should. So and try everything, right? Like why to restrict? We have so much time for all the other things. We can give time for this too. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else anyone wants to share? There is a little part, I think we'll come later to this section. In this very book, there is a part where Mother talks about grace. So what you were sharing really connects with that Mother says that it's only grace that works. It's not a medicine that's working, it's grace through that medicine. Everywhere, it's just grace. And Mother says that when we become rigid, that, oh, this is what works, and disregard grace, actually we push away grace from us. So the examples that you were sharing reminded me of that part where you can't be sure of anything that worked, just knowing that it's grace that worked through that medicine or person or whatever.
And this often happens, right? Like we might be praying for something fervently,
Yeah,
that help me with this,
yeah,
and then comes the solution,
yeah, yeah.
and it gets
Then we
okay.
forget.
We forget we
Yeah,
pray.
yeah,
We
we
just said,
forget.
okay, that pill, that
Yeah.
one that had given me,
Yes,
or
yes.
any other thing for that matter. It's so easy
So yeah, we do it all the
to
time.
forget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yes. And then we keep sharing. Actually, this happens, that whenever somebody asks me, then I would share that formula. Now it's very strange because that formula may not work for the, as you were sharing, even for the same person, that formula may not work the other time. So it's very intuitive, as we say, that truth is unfolding and it's very dynamic and progressive in nature. So, and it's beautiful that it is, because it gives so much of flavor and so much of variety and flexibility. Yeah. Many a times, this gives rise to cults, like cults of veganism, like cults of, anything. That, oh, this works, this definitely works too. And we become too rigid, and then we become even anti of those people who may not be vegan, for example. This happens. So the whole picture, like, really takes a different form. Hmm. Okay, so we can end here, maybe today, page number 53, I guess, 54. And we have lots to experiment at home with ourselves throughout the day. So, yeah, just taking a last moment, sharing all the merit, nothing that we keep to ourselves, all the merit of collective reading, reflection, understanding, clarity, sharing it with all the sentient beings, near, far. May we have content and peace in our heart, simple minds, openness to grace, and lots of progress and joy in our life. Thank you, everyone.